Good morning, everyone, and thank you, Mr. Prime Minister. And you have been correct in all that you would have shared, and so I will just augment what you would have said. I'll begin by saying that the COVID-19 pandemic continues and it is progressing, and the situation remains very fluid and dynamic. And so the big question is, how are we going to reopen our borders in this context? And so we would have looked at other countries who have gone before us, and we would have picked out the best practices. And so in opening our borders on October the 31st, we are going to take a phased approach. And so in phase one, all inbound travelers to the Federation will fall into two categories, as stated previously by the Honorable Prime Minister. The first category will be those coming in from territories within the Caribbean bubble. And based on what would have been released by CARICOM recently, these islands include Anguilla, Antigua and Barbuda, Barbados, Dominica, Grenada, Montserrat, St. Lucia, and the St. Vincent and the Grenadines. And these are the islands at present. And as PM would have said before, the situation remains very fluid and dynamic. And so the Ministry of Health, the Health Emergency Operating Center, will have to monitor the COVID-19 pandemic status within these territories on a daily basis, on an ongoing basis. And so travelers from outside of the CARICOM bubble, that would be the second category. So if you are coming into the Federation from a territory outside of the Caribbean bubble, you would then have a risk of some level of risk of exposure to the virus. All right, so those are the two categories where you will find yourself in if you are coming into the country. Now, if you are coming in from the CARICOM bubble, what happens? So once you would have been in one of these Caribbean territories for at least the previous 21 days, and once you would have provided us with a negative PCR test, you will be subjected to screening, just regular screening at our airport. And once you come out, once you are asymptomatic, meaning without symptoms, you will then be allowed to integrate into the Federation without a period of confinement or quarantine. And then you have all the options of accommodation open to you. So that's an overview of what pertains with respect to persons coming in from the Caribbean bubble. So if you are coming in now from outside of the Caribbean bubble, all right, there will be a number of COVID-19 approved accommodation options open to you. And these include the government designated facilities, which are already in use, two in St. Kitts, two in Nevis. It also includes the pre-approved or certified sites with which there is appropriate security facility. And then you also have the option of one of the local franchise hotels. In our Federation, there are 4 such. And so if you're an inbound traveler, a tourist coming in from outside of the Caribbean bubble, these are your accommodation options. And to provide you a summary, inbound travelers will be confined to their accommodation site with access to an approved package of services in a bubble, all right, for the first 7 days of their stay or less, because we are told that persons coming in from our source markets, they remain here on an average of about 4 to 5 days. And so once you come in, you remain in the confinement of the hotel or the accommodation, and you will be allowed to partake and access a pre-approved package of services within that hotel setting. Now, if your duration of stay is over 7 days, you will be subjected to serial testing, and so on day 7 you will be tested, and if your RT-PCR test comes back as negative, and if your stay is longer than 7 days, you can also have access to a selective menu of excursions and tourist destinations. And you can access that by going to the tour desk and making an appointment from the selective menu of excursions and tourist destination sites within the island. So that provides you an overview as to the approach to persons coming into the Federation from hotspots. Just to add a few more points with regards to persons coming in from the Caribbean bubble, I wanted to add that if you are coming in from a territory within the bubble, and it's important that you would have been in that country for at least 21 days. So if you are coming into St. Kitts from an island within the bubble, but you were in transit in another country outside of the bubble, you will be subjected to that 14-day period of confinement. I don't want to use the word quarantine. All right, so that's important to note with respect to the Caribbean bubble. So that provides you a summary of the approach to the incoming passengers from either of the two categories. And when we say it's a phased approach, in the first phase, the number of hotels that will be allowed to take in tourists from the hotspots can be expanded in the second phase, and then the number of excursions and tourist destination sites that will be open to the high-risk traveler can be expanded in the second phase of our opening. One of the questions referred to what would be the experience of the inbound passenger in terms of customs and immigration. As Honorable Prime Minister would have stated, infrastructural work started at the airport on Monday, and the whole aim is to make the process, the incoming process, seamless. And so once you would have disembarked the aircraft, there will be an area where you can sit and wait, and then you will be shunted into the newly designed health desk or health station at the airport. After leaving the health station, once you would have checked through, once you would have been deemed asymptomatic, then you will be channeled to the immigration counters. The immigration officers will be well protected with sneeze guards. They will be properly attired in appropriate PPE to interact with the incoming passenger. After you would have left immigration, then you would go downstairs to customs, and again, infrastructural changes are being done at the airport to protect the frontline workers, custom workers. They too will be protected by sneeze guards, etc. And so all the necessary changes are being made to make the process for the inbound air traveler to be seamless, as seamless as possible. I think Mr. Davis asked, will we be open to all markets? I think yes. And then there was another question, Caribbean travel bubble, how will SKN participate? I think I would have answered that. And then the other question with respect to the Cuban team of medical professionals, the Ministry of Health recognizes that once our borders reopen, there is a probability that we will see an increase in number of COVID-19 cases. We may probably see our second wave of COVID-19 cases, and so it's prudent for us to have the Cuban contingent or team of medical professionals remain on island at least for an additional 6 months. And so we would have recommended to our permanent secretary, and by extension the Cuban embassy, that we would need the Cuban team of medical professionals to remain on island with us for at least an additional 6 months.
That comes with the cost,
Yes, sir.